Hey guys, welcome to SD Drain Ditch Training 2026. My name is Luke Hallbach and I will be your instructor today. And alongside me, I have Scott Horvick.
Hey guys.
And we will be walking you through SD Drain. We're going to start out by going through more of the setup. So for guys, if you're looking to get back into the field, we'll just go through a quick setup, or even new guys looking to set up their first machine. And then we'll cut across and we'll get into more of the in-depth stuff with ditch. So if for like building level pads, doing backsloping, and stuff like that. So yeah, just follow along with us, and we'll guide you through. The first thing we're going to talk about is the Rust Sales RTK. This is the PX5 Rover. This is a receiver that actually mounts to the back of your display. So if you guys are running the newer tablet style displays, this receiver is compatible with your screens. You do have to send it into us to get this upgrade, but it's well worth it. Some of the main key features that we kind of like to tell guys is that we have all of the smart, expensive stuff in the cab with you. We put a simple
What's an antenna? So
GNSS
it's just an
antenna.
antenna that gets mounted on the implement. So if
Right.
something were to happen to that antenna, it's a more cost-effective replacement than, say, you had a John Deere glove that has the receiver and the antenna built into the one unit.
Right. Yep. So we put the less expensive part out on the piece of equipment that's taking all of the abuse.
And what one of the other things that we've been talking about, or we found from guys with John Deere's move to the 7000 receiver and having the uh, how do we call that RTK?
The
It's the
SFRTK.
the
Yep.
SFRTK is that a lot of the tower networks are going away. If you had been using a tower network before, the SFRTK is not accurate enough to use for drainage. So whether you're doing tile or ditch, if you have a 7000, you're going to need to get a radio for that, and you're going to need to for both the base that you'd be using and the rover that's going to go on the implement. Um, uh, this is another option for guys instead of doing that. There's no unlock, there's no subscription fee for this. So it ends up being a cost-effective solution for some guys in that area. Otherwise, make sure that you talk to your dealer about what's best for you, whether it's your RTK system that you're working through your dealer. This is another option for you.
Yep. The Rust Sales PX5 Rover kit. We had an initial release of this version. We call it version 1, and this version had some smaller push and lock connectors. We ended up upgrading these connectors to more robust twist and lock connectors. So if you guys want to upgrade your existing PX5 Rover to this style, it's well worth it. We really almost, unless there's actually another problem, we've actually really eliminated the connection issues with those right up by the receiver. So we send you guys a set of replacement cables to get you guys going, and then we replace most everything that's on the back of your monitor. So you do need to send it to us. So if you're more down south, contact your dealer, and they can get it sent up here. We'll get you guys swapped out. There is a price to it, so call for pricing. The DAC 8000 module, this is the controller that sits with you in the cab. So just kind of a review here. Make sure you guys have this, and if you can't find it, obviously we have more, but it's the DAC 8000. It's a wireless controller. So from the controller up to the computer, that is a wireless connection. There shouldn't be any cables unless you're having issues, but we can help you there. So, but yes, everything is wireless from the controller to the monitor. Attached to the controller are going to be two plugs. There's a gray plug and a black plug. The gray one is going to be your power and valve interface cable, and the black one is going to be your communications cable. So if you're running a slope sensor for slope compensation or control, you guys plug it in there. Also for your GPS, so if you have a John Deere globe, you plug your GPS into the controller, and then everything is streamed to the monitor wirelessly. So just check that out. Make sure you guys have that in the cab when you're setting up for the year. Support, we have a couple options for you guys. We have sddrain.com. This is a website you guys can go to, and in the top right corner there is a menu. Hit the menu in the drop down, and there's a troubleshooting, there's a resources tab, training tab, stuff like that you guys can go to, and we'll cover that here at the end. But just wanted to let you guys know about that. And we also have the online chat windows. That's that Let's Chat icon for quick questions. It's not necessarily our main tech support, but if you've got questions, just chat in there and we can help you out. Otherwise, for hotspot support, we utilize an internet hotspot, which it's a subscription that you have to pay for on your phone, so you have to see if it's unlocked with your provider. But if you've got it, we can use your hotspot to connect to your computer. So turn the hotspot on your phone, connect it to the SD drain tablet, and then click on the icon on the left. So down here, this will be on your desktop. Click on that, and it will open up. It'll give you an ID and a password. You will then give that to us when you call in, and then we can log on and help you guys out with any problems you might have. John Deere installation for guys running green tractors. On the back of your tractor, sometimes you'll have to remove the slow moving vehicle sign. It's a 10-pin MetroPack connector. And then when you plug our harness in, so the valve interface cable into your tractor, and then provide power, so turn your key on, what you'll see is auto with a line through it on your SCV screen. For some of the older tractors with the SCV screen in the back right corner, you're going to see EC on that number 1 hydraulic. That just indicates that our controller is plugged into the tractor. If you don't see any of this, likely something is wrong. Power cycle sometimes works. Check your pins, check power, and just double check some stuff. But when you turn the key on, you will see auto with a line through it.
And remember to have your John Deere tractor off when you're plugging in that cable.
Right, so everything off. 2023 and newer John Deere 4-wheel drive. They did move the connector. It's now in the articulation. So if you follow this main harness down the chassis, so it kind of snakes along here, there's a 10-pin stuffed down in here. Sometimes I've found it way down below. So dig for it. It is there, but 2023 and newer John Deere 4-wheel drive tractors. Case installation, guys running red tractors. 2010 or older, the connector's on the outside of the cab in the back passenger corner. It will be draped somewhat like the picture on the bottom left. 2011 or newer, the right picture is all inside. Open up that big door and you'll find that six pin connector. Again, it's just plugging a cable in. And then on the right side, we've got 2 pictures of 1-3 switches. One of them, that top 1-3 switch, or the middle picture, is an older style, 2010 or older, I believe. And then 2011 or newer is going to be all of the keypad style, the bottom picture. So making connections and then use that just showing you the place where you enable your cutting blade. AFS Connect cabs, front wheel assist. These new ones, they're on the back of the cab underneath the slow moving vehicle sign. Take the panel off and you'll find the connector on the right side by the fender. So getting to those AFS Connect cabs again, the new armrest. So you will have to do some setup on this. You have to turn on your A and B auxiliary control valves, map them to the corresponding remotes on the back that your elevation, so like your up and down with your scraper, is set up for. And then now we can control that. You also have to set up your buttons to enable that. I usually tell guys to use one of the keys in the gray keypad here. You can program these to do different functions throughout the tractor. Once you've programmed them, it will now let you enable and disable the control on A and B, or just A or just B, depending on how you're set up. External valves, guys running older tractors that don't have the electronics, or guys running new tractors that we can't plug into. An example of the new tractors would be Fendt tractors. We cannot plug into those. So we have an option for you. It's an external valve. The nice thing about these is if you have to buy one, it makes it easier for you guys to swap tractors. If you go from green to red to John Deere green, all you do is hook up to your scraper, plug in your hydraulics, and you're usually off and running. You might have to adjust your flow up and down a little bit, but typically that's all you need to do when you guys are switching, as long as nothing has changed throughout the year. So take advantage of that. External valves, they come with a weld plate, so if you need to move it between machines, it's easy to do so. There's 2 bolts that attach it to the weld plate, so you can move that in between machines. John Deere GPS configuration. So we went through some of the cable setup, so plugging into your tractor interface. Now we're going to talk about the configuration of your John Deere receiver. Starfire 3000, 6000, 7000, 7500 globes. It's all the same configuration, baud rate, hertz, NEMA sentences, and then your tilt compensation. So just go through that on your John Deere display, and then you guys can use your John Deere globes for ditching. It has to be RTK quality GPS. The programming kit, this is more relevant in ditch just because we see more guys switching between towers all the time. And like we mentioned before, the towers are slowly going away, so John Deere isn't managing them anymore. So as they take them down, this kit will even become irrelevant. But until then, what it does is it allows you to switch between towers without having to grab the globe off the scraper, put it on the tractor, program it, grab it off the tractor, put it on the scraper. That's a headache. So we came out with this kit. All you do is tee it into your ISO plug on the back of the tractor, run an extension up to the cab, plug it in, make the connection. You'll see the globe pop up on your screen, change your settings, and then unplug that cable up in the cab with you. So it's pretty simple to use, just for guys who are switching between towers all the time. Trimble GPS configuration. So before we talked about how everything is wireless. Well, you do have to make a hardwired connection to program these receivers. So a 372 is going to be my example. What you'll do is you'll move a serial cable. There's a main harness. It's labeled. It's a green band. That is your GPS. You will move that up to the top right port on these tablet displays, and that's a hardwired connection to the screen. That's COM1. You'll then go to Ag Remote. Click File, Connect, and then you'll follow our instruction sheet on how to program these globes. These are about a 15-step process, so it's a lot easier just to point you to the manual that'll walk you through it than to try and explain it here. Ag Leader 6500 and 7500 globes. These are a little bit more involved to program. These you actually have a two-step, from our instructions, it's a two-step process. You connect to it with your phone, you'll send some commands, and then that'll allow us to connect to it on our computer. So again, it's a hardwired connection when you're programming these, and then once you're done programming, you can move that cable back and run wireless again. So just know they work just fine. They're just a little bit more involved to get configured. Okay, data management. So this is going to be we're going to go through the program a little bit. 3.4.0 is the most current version.
And we're recording this on February 6th,
yep.
2026.
Yep. Hit agree. And then this first page that pops up is going to be all of your file maintenance. So this is how you guys keep track of your data. You can add different growers, different farms, different fields by hitting the plus buttons. And then it'll give you a text box to type into, enter the name of a new field, hit OK. I'm going to hit cancel. So SD drain ditch is my grower, farm is my farm, and I've got a couple here, but I've got field. I have a pre-designed plan so I can show you guys what the side profiles look like and what surveying looks like, but I'm going to go to field, and then new users, you would just click new project. And same with even old users. When you're coming back to ditch the next year, just click new project to start all over again. Do not use the same project as last year and try to cut on those previous ditches. It's just
and really let's keep the fields to a field. Then you can start a new project on a field. You don't want to have like 12 fields on one project. I mean, that can cause issues right there.
Right, and even like trying to manage all of your ditch lines, it's nice to have everything pop up in one overhead screen. So like what he's talking about is, so field, just if you're going to work on a project throughout the whole week, when you come back into the program each day, just keep clicking on the previous date. That way it keeps loading and you can keep adding to this overhead map. If you just kept clicking new project, you'll put like 3-4 ditch lines in one, and the next day you'll do 3-4 in the same field, 3-4 in the same field, and you'll have 5 different projects, each with a couple ditches in it, but it's all in one field. So just keep selecting the same date if you're working on it in the same year, and then next year do a new project. So new project, hit continue. This page we're going to load our layers. So we have guidance lines, elevation, and background. So I have guidance lines just to show you guys how ditch works. You won't have these most likely. And then we've got an elevation tab. You guys can load maps if you have them. Background image, you can load flow depressions, watersheds, or a nape image. I'm going to do watersheds just because I kind of like how they show you where the water breaks are throughout the field. Once I have my maps loaded, I'll hit start project. Again, if you don't have maps, you do not need maps to do. And there we go. We're going to shut off our control and shut off our GPS because it's going to bark at me. And then I'm just going to quick reset some settings back to defaults. Okay, so for new guys running and new guys setting up, or even guys just checking settings, I recommend that you guys all go through your settings at least once before you guys start ditching to make sure that things are going to be designed the way that you want them to be. So I'm going to go to settings, and I'm going to go to program and go to machine. So I want you guys to do the same. Check all of these settings to make sure none of this has changed. If you've gotten a new scraper, you'll have to go in and enter new settings, new ditcher. If it's a direct mount, even if you've got a new tractor, make sure you guys check all of these settings and verify that they are accurate. Blade to ground, we can calculate with your GPS. So since we've already gone through the GPS calibration, you can use the calculator here to auto-calculate your blade to ground. If you click on this, it tells you to put the blade on the ground, hit OK, raise it all the way up, hit OK, and then we auto-calculate your blade to ground. GPS height, you'll manually measure this. It's from the globe down to the blade. Fore aft will be how far before or ahead or behind is your GPS receiver from the blade, and then left or right is just your offset left and right. So measure all those in, and then put your blade width in. So make sure everybody checks that before they start ditching. And then profile will be the next page that we go into. This is all of your drain design settings. Min grade, the first one on the list here, is going to be a minimal applied slope. So if it's a perfectly flat survey, we are still going to apply a 0.05 grade. So that's just to ensure that water will flow. If you can get a 0.05 grade, that's 0.05%. That's great. We want you guys to try and stick there. We do understand that it gets flatter in some areas, so adjust when needed. But 0.05 is what we try to encourage guys to try and get. Max grade, really, we'll kind of talk about this later. Pass depth, in certain settings, this pass depth affects how much dirt is cut when you guys make a pass. We will talk about that in some videos later. DGL offset is the extra amount of dirt cut out throughout the line. Even if there isn't any dirt that needs to be removed, your DGL offset will cut out just a little bit more. So in this case, it's set to a ½ inch more dirt no matter what.
And that DGL is the design grade line. So that's the line that SD Drain is going to say this is where you should cut to. And like Luke said, a lot of guys like to just go a little bit deeper than what that design grade line is. So it's just like a little bit of an offset from that.
Yes, and then the next thing we're going to talk about, you have your large nudge and small nudge. We'll talk about those here in a little bit. Cut beyond profile. So you have, when you're surveying, you have a start point and a stop point. So where you hit start survey and where you hit stop survey. Well, sometimes you can't always get up to where you want to be when you hit stop survey, like a culvert. So if you're surveying straight up to a culvert, so what this does is it'll automatically extend a line 100 feet past your stop survey point. That way you can keep cutting. And the nice part is you can even cut perpendicular to the ditch. So you don't have to go parallel with the ditch. You can go right up next to that culvert and cut right next. It might not be exactly where you want it to be because it's a false profile that gets generated with this cut beyond profile, but it'll at least cut to your minimum grade beyond your survey. Survey both directions. This will ask you, are you surveying to the outlet or from the outlet? You guys make that decision and then go ahead and run your survey. Laser level, pretty self-explanatory. It functions, you'll turn this on, set a grade, and then you can go ahead and do your survey. You can survey and cut, or you can survey in any shape, direction that you want and cut a lasered ditch. So it doesn't work exactly like a laser. With the grade, like the set grade, that it's still the same, but with a laser you can't go in many different directions. So with this, it's nice. We're using GPS. We can now survey in an S shape if we want, unlike lasers where you mostly run just straight grades. So we've gone through machine, profile. Next, we're going to go to ditch. So your ditch settings are going to be all to do with your widths. So as you make projects wider, narrower, you want to change the way that the widths of certain parts of your ditch. You guys will run through this. I will cover backslope stuff with some videos, but your ditch width is all I want you guys to set right out of the bat. So set this to just a couple feet wider than your scraper. I usually set it, if I have an 8-foot cutting blade, set it to like 12 feet. That just gives you enough wiggle room left and right, just in case you don't follow your ditch bottom exactly. So we will talk about some of this stuff later. All right, so we've done all of our initial setup. We've gotten our system, our machine settings in, our profile settings in. Now it's time to start and just do a quick survey. So what you do is drive to one end of the ditch, or just even a short section in the field. Put your blade all the way up in survey position. Hit start survey. You're going to choose which direction you're going. Drive, and then now hit stop survey. And what you'll see is a side profile that looks just like this, or something like this. So what you can do now is turn around and click auto enable, and then enable the hydraulics on your tractor, whether that's clicking your 1-3 switch on like case tractors would, or clicking your #1 SCV4 John Deere tractors, or else engaging your hydraulics if you're running an external valve. So just different ways to enable stuff, but you'll also have to make sure this auto disable button, just tap this and it will either say auto enabled or out of range, and we'll cover that, what those mean here in a little bit. So turn around, start cutting, and then just watch your blade cut along your profile here. I'm going to adjust some settings here to make it look a little bit nicer. Just reset these back to default. That way you guys can see a little bit easier as to what's going on. So you can see here, I've got my side profile here on the bottom of the screen. The green is everything that needs to be removed. Brown is obviously your ground line. So you see the red line that strikes throughout. That is the designed grade line. That's the line that SD Drain gave you. That's a best fit line for that ditch. But if you look closely, there's a skinny little black line that goes below that. That indicates your grade line. So as I nudge up and down here with my nudge arrows, you guys can manipulate the way that ditch gets finished. And I'm actually moving my grade line, or my final grade line, up and down with these nudge arrows. So side profile, what these different colored lines mean, and then just remove all of the green and you're set. There's a couple different things here. So on the right side, we've got the line menu. This keeps track of all of your lines that you've surveyed and cut on. I have a G here for guidance lines. It shows me all of my different lines. So as I click on them on the overhead map, it will switch in the graph. On the left side here, we have it looks like a globe. If you click on that, you'll actually be able to see the side profile of the ditch. I'm going to go back to my overhead view. There's a show hide button here, just makes things visible, not visible as you click this. So if you screw up a survey and you want to clean up your map, go into this line menu, find the S box that stands for survey, and then click on the survey you want to remove, either down here or up on the overhead map, and click the show hide button. You can also name those ditches with the pencil button. If you click on this, it'll bring you to a layer attributes page where you can actually name your ditch line. There's a magnifying glass here. If you're clicking on lines and you don't know which one you're referencing in the top, just click on the magnifying glass and it will snap you to that ditch location. There's 3 buttons here, or 3 little dots here on the right side. If you click on this, you can choose what you guys want to see. So if I don't want to see this, I don't want to see my, I don't know, ID number, you guys can get rid of all this if you would like, and then just close that menu, and now it just restricts or lets you show more of the attributes that you want to see. That's the 3 dots button. So that's the line menu. A couple things that we can do there. I'm going to talk about the edit window. So just to make sure, we've gotten everything set up. We got our GPS connected, our cables ran, and now we've got things set up. We're out cutting ditches. So now we're going to get into more of the in-depth stuff on SD Drain ditch. And what I'm going to talk about next is going to be this edit window. So you can edit or manipulate the way that a line looks, and it will change the way that it actually fills or cuts. So if I go to this edit window, in this example, let's just say I surveyed through a pothole, and now I have to cut out all of this dirt to make water flow from here to my outlet. Well, let's just say I'd rather fill this in. What you can do is go to this edit window, and then now with your finger here, I'll use my finger, I can zoom in. So top right corner, there's a zoom in button. And if I tap on top of this hill, I'm going to place a point here, and I'm going to place a point here, and I'm going to click preview, and now I'm actually filling in that hole. So yellow is fill, and green is cut. And I can do it again if I would like. So move this around, zoom in a little bit. I'm going to fill in from this point up to this point, preview, and now you can see I'm filling in 2 locations. So you'll probably end up moving all this dirt, all the excess dirt up into these fill areas, but it's just something that you guys can do with the edit menu. You can also adjust your min grade, max grade, and DGL offset if you'd like. So in here, these settings only pertain to the single ditch that you're on, not like what your defaults do that apply to everything, but just the one ditch that you're selected on. If you don't like your changes, go ahead and click the undo button, and then undo again, and then yeah, you can hit done editing at any point. So I'm just going to leave it back to the way it was. So we're back here on our main page.
So right after you survey, if you think that the ditch looks weird, you can go ahead and use the edit buttons.
Right. Yep, and change the way that it will function. So just be aware of what you're doing. You are adjusting the way that ditch is going to be designed. So just keep track of that when you're making changes. We get some things, we have some numbers here on our graph. So we have elevation data on the left. This is all elevation references. And then on the bottom, we have foot references. So just how many feet you're into this ditch. So you guys can have a reference there. There is a legend that actually appears. I'm going to bring that up. I must have removed it. So I'll go to my map, not my map, my graph. And I'm going to do minimal size legend. So here, I'm going to make this legend pop up and down. So now you can see here I've got a legend showing me I've got 63 yards to cut out, 0 fill yards. It's 1,500 feet long, and my min slope is set to 0.05. So you guys can customize some things there. If I tap this window button, I'll touch on this later. The first thing we want to talk about is 3D map. If you have LiDAR data loaded, you guys can click and use this 3D mode. And again, if you want to exaggerate your 3D elevations, you guys can use this slider here on the right. So 3D just helps you find those depressions a little bit easier. I'm going to go back to my overhead view. Back profile, this is for doing back slope. I will talk about this later with some videos that we will go through.
So we have three layers loaded up right now. So we have the lines that you brought in. There's what's the second one?
We have elevation.
Elevation. So that was what Luke was referring to as like the LiDAR data. So that's the elevation data. That is what you would need if you want to make to look at it as a 3D. And then the other one is just a background image. And we do have a background one loaded up. We're not looking at that one right now. There's our background image is the flow depressions map.
Right. Yep. And again, you don't have to have maps to ditch. It's an extra feature. I think it's a very valuable feature to have these background images show you exactly where to put the ditch. But we'll talk about maps here later in the presentation. So I'm gonna for the time being, I'm going to minimize my back profile just to have my side profile pulled up. And then left side of the screen, we talked about this a little bit. These are nudge arrows. As you nudge up and down, that is also the same place that your blade is going to cut to. So if you nudged up 6.5 inches in the top left corner, it shows your offset value. Your blade will probably float 6 inches off the ground this whole ditch. I mean, it will. If you go the other way, 6 inches, there we're 6 inches lower, it will cut 6 inches more dirt out throughout your ditch. So be aware of what you're doing when you guys nudge your grade line up and down. My default is set to a 0.0 or 0.5. That's that DGL offset that we were talking about. So that you can see applies in areas like this where maybe there isn't much dirt that needs to be removed. It's still going to cut out just a little bit of dirt just to give your ditch a nice clean bottom.
It helps the scraper load nice and even too. I mean, when you're doing
Right.
that last pass.
Right. Top middle, we have a light bar, just shows you how far left and right you are of your ditch line that you surveyed. Where it says GPS acquired, this is your live elevation coming off of your globe. So just be aware of that if you guys need to compare culverts or compare elevations, say this area over here to this culvert, you guys can see if it's a ditch that's not mapped, you can see, okay, this might actually work because we've got, a certain change in elevation. So live elevation reading, and that's at your ditch blade or your scraper blade. So use that accordingly. Okay, so that's kind of the line design. We've done some editing. We've gone through a lot of the operational windows here and stuff on your main screen. Zoom in, zoom out, pretty self-explanatory. So I'm going to go through some of the menus now, or continue to. I'm going to go to program. Again, when you guys are operating, about 90% of the time, you guys will only be changing things in these, probably just in profile. Profile or ditch, those are the two that you will most likely be changing settings in. And we've already covered those. So we're going to go through support next. This button right here. So this is your help page. Scan the QR code. It brings you to the SD Drain Support FAQ section. Otherwise, if it's something that we need to log into, you click this Show Wi-Fi Networks. It brings up the networks available to you. So that would be your hotspot on your phone. So make sure you turn the hotspot on, and then you'll see it here in the list. Connect to it, and then go to this next button, this Online Help. This will open the SD Drain Support icon, and that'll give you a user ID and password, and you will need to give that to us so we can log into your screen. Check for updates. Hopefully you guys were able to do this, or at least do this before ditching season. License agreement manual. There's always a PDF version of the manual on board the computer, so you don't need internet to access them. It will be right here in the support tab. Export. So from the main screen, go settings, program, export. We have GPS log. We will talk about this feature later, and as well as the project. So exporting the project. Visual, graph, indicator bar, map. These three are all to do with colors. So if you don't like the way something's displayed, go in here, select the colors that you want to see. You can change anything, really, or almost anything, as to how you want SD Drain to visually look as you're operating. Graph legend, hidden size, full size, and minimal size. You can see how those change. Visual, I'm going to go to indicator bar. Again, this one actually there's the thing in here is there's a colorblind friendly option. So this will show, instead of like reds and yellows, it will show grayscale, so just different shades of gray if you guys need to utilize that. So that is the colorblind friendly option. Visual, indicator bar, map will be the next one. Again, this one has to do with colors. So as you guys just visually see things, this is what you guys can change to change how they look. GPS symbol, we can make that larger or smaller. Same with the outline. We can really customize things just to make things easier for you guys to see as you're operating. Units, if you want to change, your altitude, show it in meters versus feet, or miles per hour, kilometers per hour, you guys can switch those as well. Flagging and logging, we will talk about this here in a little bit. I've got some slides to show that. So the show manual flags button, turn that on. And then enable visual logging. I've got some slides to show you this as well. So it's just some extra features. This one's for collecting data if you don't have good LiDAR in your area, and this will be for marking out, this show manual flags button will be for marking out things in your field as you drive over them. Next is DAC. We'll go over to DAC control, and this is really the only page I'm going to show you for the DAC stuff because it's really the only thing you need to see just to make sure that your DAC is connected. So in the top middle, it will say DAC detected up here, and I will show you with some slides what this actually looks like. But whether you're wireless or serial, just make sure it says DAC detected. Everybody who's running the newer tablet style will be wireless, so make sure it's selected wireless, hit play, and you will see DAC detected in the top middle. GPS control is going to be the same way. So GPS control here, it will say GPS detected in the top middle of your screen. Guys running the PX5R, you will be set COM2, baud rate 57600, and set to serial. Hit start, you will see GPS data down here, and it will say GPS detected. Everybody who is running, let's say John Deere receivers, Trimble receivers, Ag Leader, you guys are all considered smart antennas. So you feed all of your data, remember, to the controller wirelessly. So you need to be set wireless for your GPS control.
Yep, your GPS is going to plug into the DAC 8000, and then the DAC 8000 is going to talk to the computer wirelessly.
Correct, right. And GPS data, a couple things in here. I mean, it's more troubleshooting when you get into these pages, so I'm not going to go too in depth with those. If you do have issues, like you start getting too far away from your tower or your correction source, you will have diff age issues. It could lead to fixed quality issues, so it's just a bunch of different things that can go wrong. But ST Drain will alarm you of that if they were happening. And then really benchmarks in this tab, we'll show you with some slides, the map feature to adjust your map. Save load settings. This is an area where you guys can go through and save each individual implement because you don't want to have to remeasure all of your machine settings, reset all of your profile settings. You can actually save them individually to a slot in the save load settings page. So slot 1 is ATV right now. I named one your scraper. Slot 2, see I've saved a bunch of profiles. So if you're saving one, you'll click on the slot, you'll name it, and then click Save Settings. If you're loading one, you'll click on the slot and hit Load Settings. So go through that, use it however you desire, but it will save each group of settings. So even if you've got a couple groups of settings, like you've got one set up for flat pad building and you've got one for field drainage, save that in here as well. That way you don't have to go back and forth to try and remember what to change. Just go in here, change the settings, and you're off and running. Project, that's the Save Load Settings tab. Layers brings you back to this page right here to let you load different layers. Let's just say I don't want to view my watersheds. I want to see my flow depressions. You guys can load different layers and then keep on ditching. Again, switch back to watersheds or even to the NAPE image. You can decide which ones you want to view. I'm going to go back to watersheds. So then start project gets you back into there, and now you're off and ditching again. New project just brings you back to the main data management page. Okay, we're going to go back into some slides here, and we're going to show you guys just a couple of extra things. The first thing we'll talk about is some of the customizable interface data bars, I guess what we can call them. If you long press with your finger, that's simulating a right click with a mouse. So long press with your finger on any of these locations, and you'll get a map, or I'm sorry, a menu that appears where you can decide what piece of data you want to see in that area.
So this is going to be on your run screen. So when you're actually ditching, you would be able to see certain values. Like I think Luke had talked about the VDOF. If there's or I mean, you could change it to fixed quality. If you were wondering how come stuff isn't working right, or if you're getting some kind of error, you can have these quickly to look and see different data streams that are coming in. So these are the data streams that you can sure choose from to just have a quick look on your main screen.
Side profile, we touched on this a little bit. So green, you remove all of it. Red line, or in this case it's blue, so this user changed the colors, but blue is going to be your design grade line, and then final grade line is the black line, and that's where your blade cuts to. So that's the one that you can nudge up and down to change how the ditch gets finished. But the designed one is the one that SD Drain gave you and said, hey, this is the best fit line for this ditch.
And you can see that there's pass lines in this one. There are 3 different ways to cut the ditch. We'll get to those in a minute. When we were doing the earlier um, uh, showing you the side profile of the ditch, it was like with a single cut. This one here is set up for a pass cut or a design cut. That's when you get to see the different pass lines.
Right. Yep. And actually, yeah, we'll talk about that here in I think it's a couple slides. So first, we'll touch on the start survey buttons. So start survey at one end of the ditch. Choose your direction you're surveying, and then you drive that ditch. Well, during your survey, you're going to get an extra button that says pause survey. What this is used for is surveying through things. So if you have a culvert, and I don't mean drive through things, I mean to survey around things. But if you've got a culvert in a road ditch and you're trying to include that in your survey, what you can do is start your survey and survey right up to the culvert, hit pause survey, drive over to the other side of the culvert, hit resume, and then continue on your survey. And obviously you'll get to the end and hit stop survey. And that will generate a whole side profile with the culvert, quote unquote, included in your survey. Survey both directions. Again, click start survey. You'll either be going to the outlet or from the outlet when you guys make that decision. So that's up to you. We don't do any auto calculation of which way the water should flow. So if you screw it up, turn around and resurvey.
And this is when you have the survey both directions button depressed. If for some reason you have that off, then you're always going to go high to low.
Right. Yep. So there is, yep, the default, the way it used to be before this feature was added, is you always survey high to low and then start cutting. Editing survey ditches, we covered this button again for editing the way that your ditch is designed. If you want to fill in holes, you want to remove dirt, change the grade, change offsets, you guys do that in the edit window. I would say 80%, 90% of guys just take the ditch that SD Drain gives you and you start cutting. Auto buttons, we have auto disabled, auto enabled, and out of range. When control is off, you will see a red button. When control is on and you're in the ditch parameters, you'll see auto enabled. And when you see, or we go outside of those parameters, but you're still enabled, it will say out of range. So essentially what you can do is just leave the screen alone. So as soon as you hit auto enabled, you don't have to touch it anymore. You just start cutting. And when you turn out of the ditch and you get so far out, it will say out of range and stop controlling. It's just to show you guys what those different colors will mean when you see them. Okay, different cutting modes like what Scott was talking about earlier. We have design, pass, and single. And these are all related to your pass depth and your DGL offset. We've got 3 different options. We have design, pass, and single. Design works in a stair-stepping type cutting motion where it'll only grab the top 1, 2, or 3 lines available to you for cutting. Pass works a little bit differently where it actually, you can tell it what line you want it to cut to. So every one of these lines that you see here is numbered from the bottom up. P1 is final grade, P2 is the next line up, P3, P4, P5, P6, and so on. It only gives you the top 3 lines available to you. So if you selected pass, notice here I've got P3, P2, and P1. And your blade is only going to cut to that line that you tell it. If you're outside of an area like this, it will always cut to final grade. Like up in here on this slope here, it will be cutting to final grade. And then once you get here, it will move up to whatever line you have selected. I do have some videos showing you guys all this, so I'm not going to explain much more on that. And then also single. Notice when I click this, my lines disappeared. So now we're taking everything out in one cut. So this is, if you click on this, it's roughly half a foot of dirt. This is 6, so 0.5 is your design depth. That's how much dirt you need to take out. We're going to watch a video here. So in this video or this demonstration, I'm using design cut. We are taking one pass line at a time. So notice how my indicator just cuts out that top layer as it moves back and forth. We are in D times 1, which means it will take one line every pass back and forth. So we're removing the green on this top pass line, and when it steps down here, it will grab the topmost line, and anywhere outside of that, if it looks like this, it will just follow final grade line. So the nice thing is here is we'll get to the end. I'm going to end up turning around, so I'm going to zoom up here. So notice I switched it to design times 2. Now when I come back along this line, it is going to cut out the next 2 available lines. So you'll see my GPS cursor or my blade indicator cut out the next 2 lines versus D times 1, which would just be 1 line at a time.
So if you're, is it pass depth? Is that what it's called, or the
Pass depth? Yep.
pass depth? So if you would set your pass depth for a foot, 1 pass is going to be 1 foot, 2 passes is going to be 2 feet.
Right. Yeah.
I think you can go up to D times 3.
Right.
Is the max to choose.
Yep. D times 3, and all you do is tap on this cut mode button to change how the program cuts. So the next mode we have is called pass cut. So what this does is, notice here I'm going to select pass 3. So and it's only going to cut to the 3rd pass line up, which is right here along this area. So everything is numbered from the bottom up, P1, P2, P3. And as you drive in the green areas, it will populate or auto-populate the top 3 available lines. So in this instance, it would have given me 4, 3, 2, and then when I come back, I'm going to then reselect the next available line. So again, you have to physically tap the P3 button to select the next pass going, but it will only cut to that line. And the reason that we have this, or the way that I explain guys to use it, is sometimes if you have, I'm going to go back to design cut here really quick and just explain my reasoning. So as you're cutting on this, in this area, you might get some stair-stepping effect just because the blade has to jump up, jump up, jump up in those areas. Well, what happens is you could start to create some choppiness in your ditch. While the next pass coming back, your scraper has to compensate for all of that jitteriness that it might have created in this stair step. So what we do is pass will just let you select a line, and it will only cut to that, and it will eliminate that stair stepping effect.
A lot of guys like that because then they can get to that last pass. It's going to be like a nice smooth load on the whole pass.
Right. Yep. You could next, like, so when you turn around, the next one you could select would be pass 2, and that would leave 1 more line left, which you could take on your final pass to make it nice and smooth. The last function is going to be single cut, and it's pretty self-explanatory. You are cutting everything out in 1 pass. In areas of the ditch that I'm covering right now, that's probably fine if you're taking out, anywhere from like 2 to anything below, 2 inches of dirt or 3 inches of dirt. But when you get into these other areas where it's like 10, 12 inches that needs to come out, then what you're going to do in single is use your nudge arrows to nudge up. So notice I'm nudging up with those nudge arrows on the left side of your screen, and that is telling my blade where to cut to. So now I'm going to keep passing over this. This is a manual mode, so you will need to nudge back down to keep cutting more dirt out. So just be aware of that. But remove the green on this pass, turn around, nudge down, say 2 inches, and use your nudge value in the top left corner as a reference. So now what I would do is nudge that down to, -2 or even -1 to make my next pass. So we are in single cut, and it's just another way that you guys can cut your ditches. There I nudged back down, and now I would take my next pass going the opposite direction. Cutting backslope. So for guys who are now, you're past the ditch bottom cutting portion, and you're ready to start cutting your backslope and start to make that really nice blend out to daylight. So you're blending the ditch bottom out to daylight. And just an example here, see my backslope window. I've got my blade indicator right here showing my location in the back profile and my location in the ditch. See, I'm way up in my backslope area, and then just showing you here what backsloping is talking about. So cutting back slope. In this example, I've already surveyed my ditch bottom. I've cut out all of the green or removed all of the dirt from my ditch bottom, and now I'm starting to work on my back slope. So the way to turn this screen on is you go to the window button right here, click on it, and then click the back profile option in the bottom right corner. That will open up this back profile window, and then make sure you click the on button to make sure it says on. You'll then set your slope ratio. We use a rise over run ratio. So 1 to 40, 1 foot rise over 40 feet of run is the slope that will be applied to this area.
Some guys ask about how do I know what value to put in there. The easy way to look at that is to go to the apex or the bank of the ditch. That white window that is in the back slope window is going to tell you what your current slope is. If you're on the edge of where the back slope is, you would be able to do a value close to that to put in for your slope value.
Right. So what he's talking about is drive out. If you turn your back slope function on and then physically drive out, let's say you drive out to way over here and you want your back slope to, or I guess we'll stay within the constraints, but drive out here to the outermost edge of your back profile, put the blade on the ground, and you'll see this bar display what the current ratio is, and just match that here with your slope button. So this one's set to 1 to 40. So I'm going to start cutting. I do have a slope sensor actually enabled on this. It's a view only, so it only shows the tilt of my blade. It doesn't control it. That's why it's not matching the back slope. But you can see how that helps to minimize as the blade going below grade. So I'm going to keep cutting on this. So I'm auto enabled. I moved out to the outside in my back slope area. You can see me driving here, and you can see my blade stay right on top of the grade like it should. So cutting back slope, it's a single cut function, so there is no design pass function to it. It will cut it straight to final grade right away. So just be aware of that when you're going out to do your back slopes. You may need to manually remove some dirt. That's usually the easiest way, and then use this as a finishing tool to get that back slope cut nicely. So just be aware of that it will cut it all at once, not incrementally.
In some of the classes, guys have asked about can I have like a slope sensor on a scraper where I can't control slope. How we talk about it is sure you can. What it's going to do is it changes how the calculation is for the depth of the blade. If you don't have a slope sensor, like most of the guys wouldn't, just running a regular pan scraper, the view in the lower right hand window, that is going to be flat. And the calculation for depth is going to be made on the center of the blade. If you do have an indicate only slope sensor that's on there, it will show the blade where it is relative to the side of the ditch, and then it's going to take the depth from the lowest part of the blade. So that's just the difference. And then if you're running a box blade or a ditcher that has slope control, then you would have a slope sensor on there, and it'll show it at an angle on the back slope window.
Yeah, so it's a super nice feature. It makes some really nice ditches when it is done cutting, but just know it is a single cut. It will take it all out at once. Surveyed back slope. So for guys, notice, let's see in this page. So right off the bat, this is a static number, meaning it is set. That is the way that it's going to cut the whole back slope. You can change this as you're cutting, but it gets kind of annoying if you're in rolly hill country where you have to keep on adjusting your slope ratio just to use your back slope. So what we came out with was a surveyed back slope where you actually survey the outermost part where you want your back slope to daylight. So what I'm going to do is in this example, I'm going to start over again here. In this example, I've already surveyed my ditch bottom. I've got surveyed back slope checked on. So I'm going to drive out to the outside where I want my back slope to finish out at. I'm going to click Start Survey. I'm then going to select Back Slope. And now I will start surveying the back slope area on this side of the ditch. And you can drive wherever you want. I could have driven out here, follow my mouse, and out here, and that's where my back slope would have finished out at. I'm going to drive, kind of cut across here. I'm going to cut across back towards the inside. And then once I get to the end of my survey on my back slope, I'll hit stop survey in the top right corner. So I've surveyed one side. You could just do one and work with the other one. That'd be just fine. But in this scenario, I'm going to survey both sides. So I'll drive over to the other side. And once I get over there, I'm going to hit start survey in the top right corner, and I'll select back slope again. So as I do that here, back slope, and then I will continue driving again exactly where I want that back slope to finish at. So just that blue line is obviously my trail. So I'm surveying, get to the end, hit stop survey, and now you can see that I have two generated back slopes or back profiles that I did, or that I created because of my survey. So now as I click auto enabled, I'm out of range. Notice my cursor is outside of my parameters. But as I get back in range, you can see here how my back slopes are a little bit different on each side. So as I get in within range, it will go to auto enabled, and my blade will drop to that back profile. So it's going to control, 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 and now throughout this whole area will be auto calculated on the back slope. You can see here my current slope is 1 to 42, somewhere in there, and it's changing all the time based off of my survey. So that is how the surveyed back slope works. It does take a little bit of time to get set up because obviously you're doing, 3 surveys on one ditch versus just one ditch bottom. So just make sure that you get your ditch bottom established and you have it where you want it to be, and then think about doing your back slope surveys if you're going to use this function. But it works well, and it does a good job of creating back slopes.
And as Luke had said before, you could just survey one side and have that as a dynamic value, and the other side could still be the static value that you have in the upper right-hand corner of the back slope window. And then we've got one more way to look at how you can do it, would be the mirrored back slope. So what you end up doing is you would survey the one side, and then as you're done with that, you will just mirror that to the other side. So it's going to be that same value on the right-hand side of the ditch and the left-hand side of the ditch.
So here you can see how they're both even. I mean, it's a duplicate of the one side that you surveyed.
But it's a quicker way to get a dynamic value on ditches that would be pretty much similar on either side, but you would see that maybe just using that static slope might not work for that, but both sides end up looking very similar. Just by surveying one side, you get both sides quickly. You don't have to drive that other survey, and you get going and get out of the field quicker. And I mean, that's the whole purpose of SD drain, to minimize the time you're in the field ditching.
Right. Next, we'll talk about parabolic ditches. So guys, we've seen these more down south where guys are doing more custom stuff. So let's say they've got a plan made up. They've got some settings that they need to adjust in the program. So what you can do is one of your settings is going to be a parabolic ditch depth. That is the ditch depth at the center. So from the center out to the apex of your parabola, that is the depth that it will be cut to. And then we also give you a reference at the halfway mark on this parabolic shape. So at 27 feet out based off of my settings. So I've got some settings up here. If you're with, let's say, you've got a cross section of the ditch that is 50 feet wide exactly, what you'll do is you'll set your back slope ditch width to 50 feet, and then you will set your back slope width to 50 feet, and you'll set your back slope ditch width to 0. Then you've got a perfect parabola set, and then it just indicates that, okay, well, it'll tell you what the depth is at the halfway mark on your parabolic shape here. So you'll run your surveys like you normally would, and depending on what your slopes need to be within those stations, so it'll be from point A to B, they'll give you a value of, let's say it's a 10th slope from A to B. You can set up your laser function, so turn laser level on, and then set your grade to a 10th, run your survey of that station, and then you might need to manipulate it a little bit with your nudge arrows up and down to get your elevations to match at the A point and the B point of your survey.
And the reason why the halfway point on this one is at 27 feet is we have a 4-foot bottom that's flat. So it would actually be 54 feet would be like the total width, so half of that's going to be at the 27 feet.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Slope sensor benefits. So we have cross slope control for box blades and some rotary ditchers like what we've kind of mentioned before. So just know that we can control the cross slope if you guys would like. Otherwise, we do have an indicate kit only for helping minimize the gouging on scrapers and stuff like that when you guys are ditching. And here is an example. Here's an example of a rotary ditcher being controlled on that back slope. So DAC 2X kits, give us a call if you guys want to take advantage of that. Otherwise, call your dealer if you are further away. But if you're local, give us a call and we can help you out. Building a level pad. So I'm going to go through the program to show you guys some of this. And actually, we're going to talk about terracing and a little bit of that here. But I'm going to go through. So we're going to do flat pad stuff right away. I'm going to load a project. I'm going to load. I have to load these because just to show you guys a picture of how stuff will look. Start project. I gotta think. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this ditch as my reference, just because it shows up, I think, the best. So for laser cutting, I'm going to go to, or creating flat pads, I'm going to go to Program, Profile. I will turn laser level on. I will go up here and set my grade to 0, since I'm going to make this perfectly flat. Hit Enter. I then will go over to Program and then go to Ditch. And here I'm going to adjust the widths of some of my settings. So if your project is anything greater than 500 feet, you will also have to utilize your back slope area. But if it's anything under 500 feet, go ahead and adjust that width in your ditch setting, your ditch width. So I'm going to set this to 500 feet. So now what you would do is survey down the center of that project. And that'll give you 500 feet wide of a working area to work with. In my example that I'm going to show you, I'm going to say I need to level out 1,500 feet perfectly flat. That's actually our maximum width. So I'm going to also adjust my back slope width to 500 feet and my back slope ditch width to 500 feet. And now the next thing, you'll also have to adjust your back slope grade to 0. And that just, we told SD that a 1 to 0 is perfectly flat. So I'll go back to my main screen here. And now you can see what a couple of my settings have changed. I need to bring up my back profile window and watch this screen as I watch right around in this area as I cycle this on and off. Do you guys see those extra lines that appear? So I'm going to leave this on. These are all reference lines that you guys can use. So from dashed line to dashed line is going to be 500 feet. That is what your back slope ditch width is. And from dashed line out to solid line, that is your back slope width. So 500 feet, 500 feet, and then 500 feet. That gives you a total of 1,500 feet that you guys can make perfectly flat. You guys can survey as long as you want, but for as far as width goes, it'll be 1,500 feet. And now what you would do is, let's say your contractor said, I want you guys to be at 903 feet elevation. So now what you do is you just nudge up to 903 feet and then start cutting. We don't have survey data throughout this whole area, so you might get to areas that need dirt or need dirt cut out. So if your scraper's cutting, obviously you need to remove some dirt, but just know that it will cut it to wherever you nudge your final grade line to. So keep cutting back and forth, and then use it as a finishing tool to get this thing perfectly flat.
And you can drive in any direction on this.
Right.
I mean, one of the things that we talk about when you have the back sloping function on, you could always just drive perpendicular of your main ditch, and as you enter the back slope area, your scraper will take control and follow the back slope down and follow the back slope up. Even when you're doing your regular ditching, you can take advantage of that. So
Right.
that's, you can go any direction that you want when you're doing the level pad.
Right. Within these parameters, just you can, like, if you've got a box blade and you're just trying to pull gravel around and just level things out, just start driving around and just testing and seeing how stuff looks and where dirt needs to get moved to, and then just start driving. So that is the level pad setup. So I would save this now in your save load settings. Create a profile, save it as flat work with a box blade or whatever, and then you can easily load that. So we talked about your contractor having a reference point or a reference elevation. Well, if you don't have that and you just want to match an area in the yard, what you would do is perform your survey like this, so you have a nice side profile, and then drive over to that area in the yard that you want to match your grade to. What you would do is drop your blade down to that location, and then you'll see somewhere along this side profile your blade indicator. So let's just say it's about at the point here. Let's call this our blade indicator at the point of this little knob here. What you'll do is just nudge down to that area. And now we'll call it right there. Now we are leveled to the area that you want to match in the yard. So another way to do it, if you don't have an elevation, you can match it to spots in the yard that are already to grade. Next, I'm going to talk about terracing and some of that setup. So I have to reset some of my settings. I'm going to change, let's just change my backslope width to 30 feet, or actually let's just go to 50 feet. Let's change my backslope ditch width to 10 feet. That will be the top of the terrace. And then my backslope grade, we will adjust that here as we go. So I'm going to call this kind of my example ditch. So what you're going to do, I'm going to call, let's just say from this point right here over to this point is going to be where I'm going to create a terrace. Let's say this is a hill right here. What you will do is you will survey right along the area that you want to create your terrace. I'm going to create this just a best fit line. It's going to just follow the natural slope of the land. So just give me 1 second here. So what you can do now is you can survey from this point over to this point, just like a ditch would. So if it's uphill, downhill, or however it works out, you can survey this point, and then what you're going to do to create the top of the terrace, you're going to nudge up however high you want to make the peak of that terrace. So right now, I'm just going to go like 24 inches. So there's 24 inches nudged up. So once you nudge up, you're going to start having to push dirt up or push dirt down to make this terrace work. And you can utilize your slope, back slope as well as a negative ratio. So I'm going to do like a -1 to 20. So in 20 feet, this will have transitioned down a foot. So just do the math and figure out how you want it to blend to your field. But let's just say, so based off of our parameters, you've got from dashed line to dashed line, that's your 10-foot top of the terrace, and then everything going from dash to solid is now a 1 to 20 slope. You can do 1 to 10 if it needs to be steeper, or just so on. However you need to match that, you guys can do so. So you're not trying to make water flow, so make sure you set your profile grade to 0. Then all you're doing is pretty much creating a wall in this area. There's no slope associated with it. You can see here how it's literally just matching the profile of the ground. So survey from here or wherever your terrace needs to be, and then just start nudging up and then apply a negative back slope to create that fall. And like what Scott talked about earlier, you can ditch and cut however direction you want. So if you're pushing stuff up or pulling stuff up, work it that way. And you guys can just, some way, just you'll have to just start moving dirt to either push it up from the bottom, from the top, however that is. So that's creating new terraces. And if you're just cleaning out terraces, you guys can treat them as ditches. So let's just say at this point, all my water flows down here and then flows out a drain that's right here. Treat this as 2 ditches. So you'll survey right along here at the bottom where the water flows. And then same thing here, survey it like a ditch down to this drain. So that way, yeah, that's all you're really doing. So then you apply a backslope. This would be a positive backslope because you are doing the inverse of what we just talked about. So survey right along here, apply a backslope correctly, and then now you're pretty much, yeah, just pushing. Again, do your nudges, which actually it would probably be 0 because you're just you would apply a slope to this because you want water to flow down to the drain, and then just start pushing your dirt up to reform that terrace that's washed in. Save load settings, again, that page that we talked about, saving settings based off of the implement that you're using. Flagging and logging. To utilize this, all you have to do is go into the visual menu and click on flagging and logging, and then check mark the show manual flags button. This will open up that button on the main screen in the middle. If you click on this, it will drop whatever flag you want at your GPS location that wherever your scraper is. So the GPS on your scraper is where it will drop that flag. So for marking stuff out in the field. And the next thing would be the enable visual logging on this flagging and logging page. Check this on and you can record data throughout a field. Let's say you've got a big project that doesn't have good LiDAR, so you don't have a means to create a map. You guys can use this program, use a Ranger, use something that you can drive even swaths. So try to do like 30-foot swaths back and forth throughout the whole field. Drive your ditch bottoms, drive your road ditches, drive any outlets, collect all this data, and then you can export this with the export button and the GPS log. It exports a shapefile. That way you guys can create maps or have somebody create a map for you. This is not it's not in the program where you create these maps. You have to export the data and let somebody else do it for you. GPS menu, showing you guys what GPS menu looks like. GPS detected. This is a serial connection, so this would be COM1. It's the top right port on the computer. But normally guys would be set up wirelessly for all the new tablets. So just be aware of that. So just to give you an example of what it looks like connected, again, this is a serial connection, COM1. GPS data, showing you guys what this page looks like with data actually incoming.
Big thing is the RTK fix. That's why it's in red. It's not, program's not going to work unless it says that.
Benchmarks. Okay, so we have a function called a map benchmark. And what this does is it actually shifts your map. So just going to explain this quick. So when I loaded this up, I found out I drove to a ditch. I'm physically sitting in this ditch right here. Well, my cursor is over here. So it makes these maps pretty much useless unless your cursor is matched up correctly with the world and the map. So what you can do is actually correct this in the field. You don't have to bring the maps back out. You can do all of this in SD Drain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to GPS benchmarks. I'm going to tap on the map function. It is then going to walk me through a wizard. It'll zoom in and say, hey, okay, place an X where you're actually sitting. So I'm going to physically tap right here, place the X where I'm sitting, hit OK, and then I'm going to click Start to Correct. And what's going to happen is it's going to collect points, and as soon as it's done collecting points, it is going to move your cursor from the bad location down to the actual location that you're sitting in. And that is how you simply correct maps in the field if it happens. I haven't seen this happen too often in the last 5 years, but if you get somebody who doesn't, GPS map the data to the world or to the right benchmark, you can get a shift in your map. And but at least we give you a way to fix it in the field instead of taking it out and having your guy fix it. DAC control, on the left side we have a wired or serial connection. This is not very popular anymore. Guys running some older computers, you might run into this, having a serial connection to the DAC, but most of the time on the right side you will see a wireless connection, and that's all the new tablet styles that guys are all switching to. So DAC detected, just showing you there what it looks like. DAC data, again, showing you slope data coming in. There's a pitch and roll message associated with when you have a slope sensor. So it does measure the roll and the pitch of your machine. DAC settings, again, you shouldn't have to check these when you go into this page. This automatically reads from the controller what's activated. So you don't have to check anything. Just know that it auto populates when you connect stuff up. Google Earth. If you have Google Earth pre-installed on your tablet, you guys can export your ditch lines and map them or lay them on top of Google Earth and then print off a nice picture, to keep for your records, show your landlord if they're curious as to what work you're actually doing. You can go to the export function right here, click on the project, and it will export. It'll open up a page and then just open up the KML file. So if Google Earth is installed, you will see a little Google Earth icon next to the KML file, and you want to open up the cut line KML.
Can we run to sddrain.com quick? So let's go to the support tab, go to training, go all the way down to the bottom. So if you're looking for details on how to install Google Earth and more Google Earth information, there's a video for you right there. So it's on sddrain.com, go to the support tab, go to training, and then go to the bottom of the page. There's going to be a more detailed, it's about a 7 or 8 minute video that'll show you exactly what's going on.
And it's pretty cool what you get. So if I go back to my slides here, so here's my export, double click the KML, and then what happens is it actually just lays it here on top of the ground. So that red line right there that you can hardly see, that is my ditch that I exported. Now what you can do is print this off. It allows you to put a title, and then print it off, give it to your landlord, keep it for your records, whatever you guys want to do with your data. We just give you a way to print off your work. DAC connection and what to look for. Everybody running the new tablets with the wireless connection to the DAC 8000 has to have a blue light. So look for the blue light when you're setting up for the year. Everybody running a John Deere Globe or Trimble Globe or a smart antenna, you guys have to have a green light as well. So look for blue and green. As far as GPS goes, if you're running the PX5 Rover, that is a hardwired GPS receiver, so you will not have a green light. So just be aware of that, the two differences. Everybody has to have a blue light, but not everybody has to have a green light. So just troubleshoot according to your GPS and what you have if you're having issues. DAC basic tuning. So the easiest thing that you guys can do to fine tune your machine really is raise and lower your hydraulics. So if you think that your scraper is really jittery up and down, up and down, up and down all the time, lower your hydraulics. These things don't take that much flow to control, so just lower them down. I've seen guys run, if they've got high flow pumps, you're running, you can be down to like 40, 30% sometimes when you're controlling. So just be aware of that. If raising or lowering your hydraulics doesn't help, there is a DAC tuning page. So go ahead and just close SD Drain, go into DAC config. This big window will open up, and what you're going to do is click on the tune window, and this smaller tune screen will open. And there's a couple of things here. We've got some sliders on the left side of the page. The green one is your up movement. The red one is your down movement. And to test these, you have to enable the control on your tractor. So red case tractors, you can do this sitting still, along with external valves. You guys can do this sitting still. But John Deere guys, you have to be moving or just creeping. So I always go first gear, throttle back, and then do your tuning. But what you're doing is you are moving the slider just until you see the implement move. So and it only has to move a tiny amount. So I'm talking move like an inch every time. When you click the button once, it should move about an inch. So what you'll do for the up motion, lower your blade a little bit so you have some movement or you have some room to move up, and then enable your tractor, and then just keep clicking this up arrow until you just see your implement move. You click it once, the implement moves about an inch. Once you're happy with that value, you'll see this value change as you adjust this button. And once you're happy with that value, click on it, and that'll transfer it over to the first step. Do the same thing with the down motion. So just keep clicking this arrow until you just see the implement move, and then click the value button here in the top. It'll transfer it over to the first step on the down. So left is a plus, that's up. Right is a minus, that's down. Then once you're happy with your values, click Set Tune, and then Save Changes to DAC. That is basic tuning. If after that doesn't work, you could come back in here and add steps if you want. So the up side has steps and the down side has steps. The more steps that you add, so there's 5 in here right now. Let's say it's super jittery. I would put like a number, I'd put like 30 in here for both up and down, and then see how it performs. So make big jumps when you're trying to adjust steps. Don't just add 1 or 2. Do like 20 at a time and see how that adjusts your control.
The larger the number of steps, the slower the valve is going to react.
Right. Yep. Topography maps. So if you guys are looking to get into maps, again, if you're not a local guy, check with your dealer to see if they have a solution for you, and then just show them our manual. In the back couple pages, there's a section that goes over the type of map that we need to work with SD Drain. And most of the time, if they can make the maps, they're probably running ADMS, which is the software. So GK Technologies owns ADMS. That is a mapping software. That's what we use it for. And it'll create topography maps and all the maps you need to work with SD Drain. They also own SD Drain products as well. So it's kind of a sister company or sister programs or whatever you want to call it. So they work well together. Otherwise, you can get other maps in other ways. So if your dealer has a way to do that, great. If they don't, we can help you out and get you some maps made. So this is what they look like. Again, if this is a whole field, all you're doing is drive out in here, start surveying all these black solid lines, and you're off in ditching. There's no question on where the ditches need to go. So whether you're in super flat land or you're in super rolling hills land, and it's hard to see where the most effective way to drain water is, get these maps made, and they will show you exactly what's going on in your field. On the left, we have a watersheds map. The different colors just indicate where the different areas of water are flowing. So all of this red, this has a common exit point in the field, which is right up here. And all of this blue has a common exit point, which is right up here. Same with the green and same with yellow, just all the different watersheds that you have throughout your field. And then a topography and elevation map on the right. KMZ files, if you get maps through us, you also get KMZ files. And you can upload these to your phone. It's just nice you guys can view this on a smaller device. If you need to just quick go out and do some field scouting, give it to the co-op guy or something so that they can, when they're spraying and there's a 2-foot canopy in soybeans, you guys can see exactly where the wet spots are to potentially keep them out from getting stuck. So KMZ files. And that is everything we have as far as ditch goes. Scott, did you want to talk about the SDDrain.com?
Let's go to sddrain.com. So we had talked about this a little bit at the beginning. Big thing for you guys is if you go to the support tab, let's go to our first thing is troubleshooting. So under the support tab, how do I register my software? Why don't I have a GPS signal? That's kind of one of the big ones we get. So if we look at why don't I have a GPS signal? if you just read the first sentence, Luke had talked about which lights are turned on the DAC controller. That's going to be a power issue. If the power issue is not happening, you go on and click in the next step. And then what this is going to do is it's going to be a troubleshooting tree, and we'll just go through step by step to help you solve this issue. If for some reason it's a time of day or on the weekend when there's a tech that's not available to answer your questions, this is a great resource for you. If you get through all the different sections and it gets to a spot where there's a larger issue than this tree is going to be able to solve, it'll end up and say, call for support. But this is a great way to set stuff up. If we go back to the support tab and we go to manuals, this is going to take you to where the setup is. What's really cool about this is if you go to the online ditch manual, a lot of, I think, things can be solved through this initial setup program. If you're running into any kind of issues there, you can sure click quick to how do I set up my John Deere receiver? How do I set up my Trimble receiver? So this is going to get you to that one particular section, and it'll just go step by step. Luke had talked about this earlier. There's a number of steps in order to set up your Trimble receiver. They're just right there. You can look at them on your phone, really easy. If we go back to sddrain.com too, like we said, under the training section, let's go to the resources. So you go to support, under resources, there's going to be, when you first get your kit, this is what's in the kit. These are kind of what the different pieces do. If we go underneath these two videos, there's going to be videos that you can take a look at for, I'm moving my system from one John Deere tractor to another John Deere tractor. What are the steps that I need to go through just to get the hardware installed? Where am I going to find the plug-in on my John Deere tractor or my Case or my New Holland or wherever? So these are more resources that are available for you that are on the website to be able to take a look at and maybe get some issues solved before you're taking that next step of making a phone call to a tech. That's all we have for training for this year. Have yourself a great rest of the day and a happy ditching season.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.